met Paula at like one of the sort of catch-up seminars that Mal Yu was doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she was there.
Yeah.
And, I kind of briefly got to meet her. So there has been a couple of things she wanted me to do, but it's just never worked on the same, which is a bummer, but it's so good to see her doing stuff and you doing stuff with her. I was like, great.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Now, we have Mrs. Chokolate Music.
Yes.
Hello, Jessie.
It sounds so strange to hear it like that.
How did you want me to introduce you?
No, that's perfect.
Mrs.
That's
Chokolate Music.
Fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I think I'm so used to being behind everything, you know.
No,
but
you're next to.
I know. And, I say that, but I am, when I look at our Instagram and our social platforms, I'm at the front. But I never feel that way. I'm like, no, I like to be at the back, but I'm not. But yes.
You're a silent supporter.
Yes, I am.
Or are you the mastermind?
I like to think I'm maybe a bit of both. I sort of organise the chaos.
You're definitely a bit of both.
Yeah. And I think for me it's always organising chaos because working alongside Giovanni, I shouldn't say Giovanni, he's probably going to be like, I'm not in trouble.
Now we know what you call him when he's in trouble.
Yes, I do. Yes, you do. He's so creative, and he's got so many visions, and so I organize this, these visions of his, and he'll be like, I want to do this and I want to get that and I want to do this, and we're like, okay, let's rein it in, let's like bring this down and plan.
So you are the mastermind because you take the chaos that he comes up with and then you strategize and put it into operational effectiveness.
Yeah, I think so. But if you told him that, he'd probably deny it. He'll be like, no. But
well, you know what? I'm getting the other side of all the truths now.
Yes, that's true.
So tell me about the fact that you met him at your birthday party.
Yes, I know.
And then years later, he was like, hey, I was at your birthday party.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. It's so funny when I hear that because he remembers it differently to me.
Of course.
Yeah, and I don't recall him at all, like at my birthday.
He was non-existent.
Yeah, he was pretty much non-existent to me. And I knew there was a band. And I knew his friend Bertrand. We knew him very well. My family did. So my mum worked with his mum.
Yeah.
And so my parents were like, we've gone to watch, some of the dances they do. So they have like Mauritian balls. And so we'd been to a couple and my mum's like, we got to have a band and we got to have this and we got to have that. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm whatever. I'm turning 18, and
doesn't seem like such a long time ago.
No, it doesn't. I wish it wasn't. But it does feel like it was just, not so long ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, he said he was there, and when we started talking, and he
because that was like a couple of years.
Yeah,
like,
was it
like
was
3 or 4 years or 5 years, right?
Yeah. And
I'm not trying to give away your age.
No, it's fine. I've come to accept, my greys are showing anyway. So.
Shit!
I don't know.
Can I just tell you, every single time I get a side profile photo look of me, I'm like, what is going on with all these greys?
Yeah.
When I had longer hair, I couldn't see them.
Yeah.
So I'm growing it back.
Yeah, well, see, I didn't even notice them. So, you've done well with how you're positioning. Like, I did the part in the middle because, that's in. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, I don't know if this works. But it is what it is. I
can't do the part in the middle. I feel like there's just too much stuff going on my face, so it has to be on one side.
Well, that's it. I've only just started to get used to wearing my hair down.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like always sort of like, like white chicks, how he's flicking out of his mouth. That's me. But yeah, as I was saying, he, when we got talking, and he was just like, wait, I remember you. I played at your 18th, and then he gave so many specifics. So
from memory, did he I think he said to me that you came up on his Facebook or something, and then you connected on Facebook.
Yes.
And then that conversation started, and then he was like, "Oh, I played at year 18."
Yeah.
And then next thing you know,
yeah, that's it. Like Bertrand again. So he was our mutual friend, and there was some sort of, I guess, political view that he had written. And so I just kind of gave my 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
And then thought nothing of it. And then he started to engage with me. And from what he says, like, he enjoyed the conversation. And so he was like, can you add me as a friend? Because I've exhausted my friend requests or whatever. Him and Facebook.
Friend.
So I was like, okay, sure. Like,
wasn't it? Did he exhaust all of his pokes?
Maybe because that was pokes then.
Yeah, the pokes thing was on Facebook, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Look, I didn't really know. I kind of was just in that phase
Did you poke him back?
I actually don't remember. Isn't that awful? I don't remember.
Facebook. Who remembers Facebook anyway?
Right? And he just, I added him and I thought, okay, whatever, like just an ad, go live your life,
Just an ad. Holy sheesh.
I know, I sound so awful. And when I listen to his podcast, I'm like, he spoke so nicely about me.
No. I think I can see how lovely of a couple you are together.
Oh, thank you.
And you do speak high. You did speak highly of him, like before we started recording. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's interesting. Like he, actually, it's funny when he did start engaging with my posts, and he said I catfished him into the food. I did cook those foods.
Oh,
just
that's
to be
right.
clear, yeah. Because he started to go through my profile.
Yeah.
And he was commenting and liking.
Have you always been a good cook?
I like to believe so. But
you don't. So you like to believe so, but you get feedback that you're not?
Well, no, everybody gives me feedback that they love my food.
Yeah.
And I think I put my parents on a pedestal when it comes to cooking.
So which one of your parents did the cooking?
Both.
Both?
Yeah, both. Yeah.
So like double whammy.
Yeah. And being like culturally, like my mum, she's Polynesian Scottish. And my dad, he's he's Fijian Indian, my dad. So very different worlds culturally.
Yeah.
And so they brought their cultures of food and we've just eaten really well. So and we, I guess, being as those cultures as well, we entertain around food.
Yeah.
Food brings us together.
Yeah.
And I think you would probably relate to that as well, culturally, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like with my mum being Indonesian. She's Dutch Chinese because the Dutch colonized Indochina, and then my dad he was Australian. But like growing up, I always had friends that were like, "Oh, can we go around your house?" Because they knew that there was like Indonesian food to eat.
Yeah, and it's something so different in flavor. Like it's not your meat and 3 veg.
Yeah,
right?
And it was like, and there was always, and if there wasn't enough, there was always going to be more because she was going to cook more.
That's right. And like we've grown the same way. My parents have always taught us if you're going to cook a meal, always cook an extra plate because you never know who's going to step up at your front door.
Yeah.
And you may need to feed them.
Yeah.
And so that mentality's always been there. So, I just had an interest, and my brother and I, like, we just would bond over cooking as well. Because my brother, I've got 5 siblings. So we're a big family.
So where are you in the 6?
I'm the eldest.
Oh.
But I look the youngest. No.
I was going to say, your brothers must be very young.
Yeah, well, I do have 3 siblings who are teenagers.
Oh.
Yeah, so we have a young family. So my mum had my brother and I quite close in age.
Yeah.
And then there was my sister when we came to Australia.
Was he a mistake because it was so close?
We both were.
Oh shit. Your parents didn't plan that very well, then, did they?
No. Well, my mum, she was told that she could never have children.
What? And then she had 6.
And then she had 6. Yeah. So she has PCOS. So the doctors back then were just, I guess not that educated on those sort of conditions for women. So she was just told, I'll never have children. I'll never be able to have children. And then I came along. And then, my brother, he came along, and that was sort of unexpected.
So why did they continue having more?
I guess it was too many fun nights. You know, they're young parents, so
listen out, children. Don't have too many fun nights.
Yes, don't have too many fun nights. Well, you know, my parents, they were young. My mum was 16 when she had me.
Oh, right.
So, you know, she'd always wanted to be a mum, and my dad, he came over to New Zealand, and then he was like infatuated by mum. And
of course he would be. Look at you.
Oh, thank
now
you.
I know why Gio's like a very happy man.
Yeah, well, you know, I have good genes. No, you know, being like my grandmother, she was a beautiful woman. And because of how beautiful she was, her dad sent her from the Cook Islands to New Zealand to get her away. But that didn't help because she had like 9 more children.
Exiled.
Well, that's it. He thought get her away because she was in pageants and there was always men at the door. And so he didn't want this for her. So he sent her to New Zealand.
So he sent her away and then she ended up having 9 kids.
She did, yeah.
What the fuck?
She did. And so I'm like, I don't know.
That was like reverse. That was like reverse, like engineering the outcome that you actually wanted. You actually like enabled her to have more kids.
Well, that's it. But then again, it just showed you the level of understanding, you know, and what the cultural side of things are thought of. You know, you think, oh, well, you're going into a country that's more westernized. They're probably more educated and they know a lot more, so they think wise. No, no, that's not how it happened.
It's all. I think it's this case of like when you deliberately try to do something, the universe goes, we're going to do something different. We're going to do the complete opposite.
That's right. I think it just, you know, it's that challenge of
9 kids.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, we look at 9 kids now like, wow, that was so crazy. Like, there's no way you could have 9 kids now.
Yeah, but cost of living back then was less, and probably having more kids was probably better because there was, you know.
Yeah, and well, I mean, at the same time as well, my grandma was very religious. So, you know, there was no way that any child was going to be, you know, sent away or anything like that. It was, she wanted to, if the baby was there, this is a blessing from God.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how she saw things.
Yeah. Plus there was no contraception back then.
Yeah. And, I mean, I guess there was no real education around it either. You know?
Yeah.
Like my mum, she jokes with me and she's like, you know, I didn't want you to have children young, but you waited a long time, you know? So, you know, I was like, well, Mum, you taught me well then, you know? But at the same time, it's kind of like when you are a woman of today's age, we're all being told, have careers, but then you go to the doctors and they're like, you need to have children now because your body is ticking. And so there's this imbalance.
It's a hard situation.
It is.
Because, like, you've got all of these societal pressures to be everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether or not you choose to be everything, you know, and do everything, be a mom and have a career and, you know, do all of that. Like, like you can do it, but, like, I think you have to do what's right for you.
That's right.
You know, like, because everyone's different, right?
Well, that's it. Everyone is different, and we all manage things differently. Like for example, Gio, you know, he comes from a family of 3 siblings. I come from a family of 5, and he can find our situation quite overwhelming. You know, because there's constant noise, and to me, that's just white noise. Like.
That's just the way that we live.
That's just the way that we live, and you all just function in that way. And so for me, like, I've watched my parents, and I think as an adult, I've become more willing and more able to appreciate and understand all of that. So as we were like kind of talking before, you know, we talk about teenagers and all that, and you're like, oh gosh, I hate all that phase. But then it's like we hit a point in our lives where we kind of go, well, I'm starting to understand why my parents were doing what they were, or trying to understand what they, you know, were doing, because there's no rule book with parenting.
Oh,
you know?
There's no.
Yeah, there's no guide. There's no dummies for parents. There's no.
But everyone's got advice.
That's right. They've always got advice.
Bro, shut up.
Yeah.
Like if that worked for you, it may not work for me.
Yeah. And
what I heard something the other day, and it was something along the lines of like your parents did what they could at that time, so don't like hold them accountable for like any of the trauma that you have. Like you just have to accept it because that's what happened at that point in time. You know, and like no one's perfect, so everybody makes mistakes and all that type of stuff, and you just have to come at it with love and support and, you know, try not to hold like resentment and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I see some value in that. I do think there is some level of accountability though, like in every sort of facet of, you know, what happened, because there are certain traumas that are generational, you know.
Yes.
And it just trickles down, and sometimes we don't notice that until we've hit this part of our life where we're going, well, actually, I don't think that fits me, or that doesn't fit now. It doesn't apply. And I need to fix that, or I stop it here, and how do I do that, you know? And some people can take it as lessons, some people don't. But it's really up to you. Like, for example, as I was saying to you earlier, there was a portion of my life where I wasn't talking to my parents, and my parents weren't talking to me. And now I look at it, I'm going, well, my mum is young. We're growing up together. You know, she was 16 when she had me, and we are going on this journey of her being a teenager, an adult, you know, and then a woman and a mother. And she's navigating this, and she's had a troubled life, and she never tried to sort of bring that into our world. But there were certain things that she probably had in her life which was trauma-based, which was sort of trickling into how we were functioning. And then we're kind of like, well, actually, maybe that's not how I want to do things. And she had that time away. We had that time away with myself, and we've come back together. And we've been able to talk about it like adults and go, well, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want to do things like that. Or if that makes me uncomfortable, I'm going to tell you. And if I don't like that, I'm going to tell you. And we communicate a lot better. So it's kind of one of those things, I guess, you know.
Yeah. And look, my sister didn't talk to my mum for like 4 years when she was like in uni and stuff, and then I tricked them both to meet me at a cafe at the same time, and then I got them talking again.
Yeah.
And then probably, like the last 8 years, I kind of like stopped talking to my mum, but like I've started talking to her again.
Yeah.
Like, I think as adults, or as humans, like you go through things, and like sometimes you have to go through your own like healing journey yourself.
Yes.
And appreciate that everybody else is going through a healing journey as well. Yeah. Because you don't know what's going on in other people's lives.
You don't.
And as much as, you know, it may be annoying or frustrating, you just kind of have to like let it be.
Yes.
You know?
I agree. You just got to let it simmer, you know. You never it's just like cooking. You know, you don't overcook your meat, and if you do, something's gone wrong in the process.
Medium rare.
Yeah, medium rare. That's my jam.
More rare than medium.
Oh, really?
Yeah, whenever I go to a restaurant, I have to ask them. I said, is it more medium or is it more rare? And then they're like, ooh, it's probably more medium. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have it rare.
Yeah. That's a good, like, I've never thought of it that way. But, yeah, when it comes to me and you cut through and you're like, ooh, this is a bit medium. So you've given me a tip there.
Because what I find here is whenever I do, like, either, like, some sort of baking or something, like in the oven, it's a really hot oven.
Yes.
So either I turn it down or do it for less time.
Yeah.
So I think and it's like, I think there's two parts to it. There's the equipment and then there's the operator.
Yes.
You know, and like depending on how attuned the equipment is and how attuned the operator is, will they understand what's required?
Yeah. And if the blend actually works.
Yeah, and if the blend works. So that's why I always ask, like, is it more medium or is it more rare?
Yeah.
For a medium rare steak.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then it comes out and it's fucking more cooked. And I'm like,
that's not what I was asking.
Why did I even ask?
Yeah, sometimes you do feel that way, hey.
I have had blue before.
Really?
Yeah.
How was that?
Like, it was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just meat.
Yeah, yeah, true.
You know.
Well, I guess it depends, like, how big your palate is and what you're willing to palate.
Yeah.
You know, some people just like, that's my limit. You know, like, for example, we eat raw fish, but it's really cured fish in lemon, right? It's not
ceviche.
Raw. Yeah, it's ceviche. So it's just called that, you know. But we're just saying it's raw because we're not cooking it, you know, on the conventional sort of format. But yeah, like I love that you brought that.
Do you have a signature dish?
Do I have a signature dish? I don't think I do.
Does she have a signature dish?
I mean, he loves anything that I'll make that's got sweetness in it. Like it's like if I make, you know, soy sauce chicken or something like that, he wants honey in it, or he wants
honey.
Yeah, he likes something sweet. Or if I make,
he's got a sweet tooth.
He has a big sweet tooth. I got my first cavity when I started dating him.
Bro, you caused her to have a cavity.
Yeah, I never had a cavity. Growing up in New Zealand, it was very expensive. So, like, we didn't really have a lot of sweets until we came to Australia. And we're just like, whoa, like, you know, a whole world of sweets. But again, like, we weren't.
It's all the sugar cane we've got here.
And we just never really kind of gravitated to sugar. Like, I'm more of a savory person. And then I met him and I worked at a video store. Yeah.
Blockbuster or Easy Video?
I was Blockbuster.
I was Blockbuster as well.
Right. So this is why we get it.
Did you used to call it Cockbuster?
No, I didn't. But we weren't Blockbuster for very long because it became Civic Video.
Oh, okay.
So they eventually, you know, got bought out. But best job.
Shit. Now I'm really like, because I was, I worked for Blockbuster Video when I was in Perth.
Yeah.
Before I came here.
Yeah.
And my best mate, Christian, when he came back here, he worked for Blockbuster. So every Friday night we were like talking to each other.
Yeah, love that.
And he was like, when are you coming over? It took him 6 months for him to convince me to come over.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I wasn't ready to leave Perth.
Yeah.
But the thing that got me, he was like, the girls are better here.
There you go. See, I haven't travelled to Perth.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, I would assume there's a bit more of a sea of women in Melbourne than...
There's more variety.
Yeah.
Because it's more multicultural here.
Right.
And, of course, there's, like, more people.
Yeah.
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 But that was the funny Blockbuster years.
Yeah. You know, I said to my dad, you know, one day I want to work there. Because growing up, that was something my parents always did. We watched movies. My parents are a movie buff.
Yeah.
Right? My mum, she will always put on a movie. There's a movie for everything.
Yeah.
And so that was our treat, you know.
I knew there was going to be some interesting topics to talk about. We can talk movies.
Right? I mean, I'm probably not as... I think I am not as big as a movie buff as my family, but... I could probably do okay. I used to cheat. Like, you know, at Blockbuster, they tell you, you can watch free movies because you've got a review, right? And you've got to have people ask you.
You got to review because you got to sell the movie to the customer.
Exactly. And so I would just take a bunch of my movies and be like, Mum, here's some movies. And Mum would watch it and be like, so how was it? And she's like, yeah, it was good. Da, da, da.
Oh, you cheated, so you got the review off her.
Correct. And so then I would go to work.
That's not so good, Jessie.
I know.
I'm disappointed.
I know, right?
I like how you deflected the conversation, though, in terms of not answering what your signature dish was.
Well, I don't know if I have like a signature dish because I just love to just cook. But I probably would say my family, they probably give me a better rating in comparison to Gio.
An Uber Eats rating.
Yeah, that's probably right. When I do a seafood boil.
A seafood boil?
Yeah, they go crazy.
How do you make a seafood boil?
So you sort of make the broth, and that will have like, your staples like your lemon, your onion, a bit of Cajun seasoning. So it just depends. Like we have a big spice palette, so I love
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, where he was saying she cooks off my head.
She's like she can handle spice more than me.
Yeah, and my younger brothers, they're much more in strength. They can really eat hot. I'm like, now that's just crazy, but it's just something we sort of kind of all enjoy. But yeah, so I do Cajun seasoning, and then you slowly cook each seafood in the broth, and then you need to take it all out. So there's quite a lot of steps, and then you make your sauce that will go over it.
Right.
And I guess the key to it is butter, right?
The key to everything is butter.
Right? Anything that's not good for you is the key.
No, butter is actually good for you now.
Well, now it is. I mean, 20 years ago.
20 years ago, the margarine industry tried to crack down, and now it's proven that butter is better than margarine.
Well, that's it. And, now we've got all the carnivore diets coming out, and, it's sort of going back to how we were, and all these things.
I need to get one of those things so that you can make your own butter.
Oh yeah, like a cure.
Yeah, so you just like put milk in, and then
I guess
you like shake the hell out of it.
Yeah, I think there's a way. You can sort of sift it as well, almost like ricotta. But I think there's a particular process on how you do it. But I've never. I mean, TikTok makes it look easy. The world of TikTok, it has sold me. For a long time, I was like, I'm not going to do TikTok, but. Yeah, that's probably my signature, I would say, in that regard.
Okay.
Because we love seafood. Being islanders, we enjoy a good seafood. So my family really like that when I make it. So I sort of do it around Christmas time.
Nice.
Yeah, and then Dad will do a hangi, and we all sort of bring our own little dishes, and then we eat together. So but if it's Gio, anything sweet, he'll be like, if you make the curry and it's got its sweetness in it, if you got anything he'll be happy with. And he'll normally tell me, he'll say, yeah, I like this one. This is a good one. But meeting him, I helped grow his palate. Hey. That now he's exceeded, like, even me. Like, I struggle to eat chicken feet, right?
Oh, yeah.
He loves it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no. Like,
chicken feet are great.
Yeah, I don't know. The cartilage for me it's like... Oh, it's a bit weird.
It's all about the cartilage.
I know. And so I'm like, I love the smell. It is, right? But it's like, I love oxtail, and I love all those rich things.
I actually think because the diet has cartilage added to it for Asians, it's why they look so youthful all the time.
Yes.
And the bone broth, and like there's a lot of collagen in the diet.
Well, that's, so true. And we have, like, being Indians as well, right? We have similar things to, the Chinese and all that that we use. So I find, like, we use a lot of turmeric. We use a lot of ginger. A lot of garlic. These are really good things for your body. Where we get it wrong is the oil. The oil and the salt.
Salt's not bad for you.
Well, my mum, like...
I mean, if you're putting cups in.
She salts like the Himalayans. Like, she's just like, woof, but that's why her food tastes so good. So I try to rein it in with the salt.
Yeah.
And try and do the alternatives. Like, I cook with olive oil. My dad, he's like, no, we don't cook with olive oil. It's vegetable oil, He's like, that's how you cook it. But, health-wise, you've got to, do different things. But, yeah.
So, because you're Mrs. Chokolate Music.
Yes.
Have you always been like musically sound? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I always loved to sing growing up. So my family, my mum, she sings.
Yeah.
And I think I was always so mesmerized when my mum sang at my auntie's wedding, and I thought, wow, she sung Mariah Carey and Luther Vandross version with my uncle, who can also sing really well. for my auntie's wedding, and I was just like, wow, my mum's a star,
Yeah.
And so like I always loved singing, but I was very shy.
Right.
I did the Macarena once, and someone opened the door, and I like flew for the ground. I was like, no one can see me.
We're gonna get a version of Macarena right now. Are you ready, Jessie?
Oh gosh, I now coordinate the Macarena for people. I'm like, let's do this. But
It's
yeah,
background support.
that's it. Like, see how I say I like to be in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I always sort of loved it, but it was never something that was pushed as like you should do that.
Yeah.
And so when I met Gio, he was the bass player, he was the musician, so he was exciting, and I would go for his drink cards. So I'll go have a good time, you play music. And then when we moved in, he was like, oh, you have a tune, like you can actually quite sing, and you're quite good, like you should maybe do something with this. So he, as he does, was like, how about I'll bring some musicians over, let's just have a jam. So, they gave me the mic, and I enjoyed it. And so they're like, let's do something, Gio with his vision. He's like, let's do something. So I'm like, oh, okay, let's do this. And so I think it was 2015. So, I'm in my 20s. So for a long time, there was no sort of music in that way that I did. It was purely when I met him.
Were you academic in school?
I was.
Did you want to be a doctor?
Well, I don't think I'm that academic,
A chemist?
I was going
a dentist. A dentist.
You know what? I should have studied dentistry.
Really?
Because there is a good amount of money that can be made.
Oh, yeah.
In dentistry. And I was like, why did
there is
none of
so
the
much
say
money in dentistry.
Right?
But they actually work really hard. So
they do.
My good mate, Mark, his wife is a dentist. And like he's a stay-at-home dad with their 4 kids.
Wow.
But he's got every toy under the sun. Yeah. But he like looks after the kids and all this type of stuff.
So it's a lot of work, and they have to sort of organise it. Sorry, that could be my phone.
Oh no, I think it was a camera.
Okay, cool.
That's okay. Yeah, that's all good.
Because my parents, my family would always say you're really great with kids.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like you should be a teacher, and that was the path I was going down.
Oh.
Yeah. But then I guess I found that it wasn't really something I liked. Like I loved being around kids. Like when I went into daycare, because I was doing early childhood and primary, I would find the days so long being in daycare. It's like I love these babies, like they're great, but I really don't enjoy changing nappies. And I was like, oh gosh, maybe that's what put me off having children.
I do think it's interesting how like we try to associate a job with the things that we like to do.
Yes.
And then when we either study it or we do that job, we're like, there's like so much other stuff that we actually don't like.
Yeah. And that's really kind of what happened for me. Like, my parents did push academia because they were like, school is important. And as you might know, being cultured in different cultural lifestyles, we're pushed that you must get a good education. This leads to a good job, and this then leads to a fruitful life.
It's so true.
And it's just that's what you're told. And so, I was very pushed in academics, but I did sports as well.
Yeah.
So, like, when people come into our studio and they see our trophies, most of them are mine. I sort of have a dig, like, like I'm.
Touche.
You think he's cool? I'm actually the cool one, like, because even everyone sees all the collections.
I'm the mastermind.
Yeah, right. I'm the mastermind.
I think you're right though. Like, there's this kind of underlying thing around previous generations saw Western society as the goal. Like, we need to get like them.
Correct.
And part of that is academia.
Yes.
And part of it is fitting into this norm around having a job that's stable.
Yes.
I was very much the same. So I studied electrical engineering. I didn't go down that path. I did 1 year of sports science.
Yeah.
And I finished electrical engineering, but then I got into banking and finance.
Wow, so different. Yeah.
You know, and prior to that, I was like Japanese cook, worked in a lighting and staging company, doing welding, Blockbuster Video, like security, like crowd control.
Wow.
Worked at a strip club, like all this type of stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then banking and finance for 12 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like you go through this, like trying to fit in. And then when I started photography like 12 years ago, I was like, oh, I want to see where this goes.
Yes.
And like becoming more creative and becoming more expressive in like art and appreciative of like music and like meeting all these great people, you know?
Yeah.
And I find that work feeds the soul more.
Yes.
Than trying to fit into someone else's like ideals.
Yeah. I 100% resonate with that because, you know, I was good in that aspect. Like I'm one of those people, and I think I get this from my dad. I can pick things up really fast, right? And even Gio, like, because Gio has undiagnosed ADHD. So you've met him. You can definitely go, yeah, he's right up there. He's peaking. And so sometimes, like, I will learn things and then I will help him and be like, okay, actually, we just do it like this. And once the light bulb goes off, boom, he's next. Like, he's like, let's go. And so that sort of happened with me. So I was like, okay, yeah, maybe this is for me. And I did enjoy being at the primary school, but again, I couldn't see myself doing this forever. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be happy. And so when I met Gio and he was like, let's do this thing, I enjoyed it. And I was like, wow, this is really nice. Like, this is fun. And then they organized my first gig and it was at a shisha bar. And I thought, oh gosh, you know, I was excited but so nervous. And that night, I just held my mic and stared at this screen because I was just tripping out. I was like, no way. Like, I'm
tripping
sweating.
balls.
Yeah, literally, I was sweating and I was like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? But then once I got past that, I was like, well, actually, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I don't mind this. And from there, Gio's like, okay, you need singing lessons. Like, you're good, but you need singing lessons. And he'll give you the truth.
Damn, that's some harsh feedback.
Yeah, he's like,
you need singing lessons.
You need singing lessons. And you know, I took it that way. I took it as, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're saying this to me. Like, you're meant to love me. Like, you know. And you're telling me, like, you know.
I guess it just goes to show the strength of your relationship if you can be that completely honest with him.
Yeah.
He can be that completely honest with you.
Yeah.
But then it's not like the depth of your character is the things that you do afterwards, as opposed to going, oh no, like you're supposed to love me. What are you saying?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's it. And
so you got singing lessons?
I did. You know, so you know, he was like, look, how about you go do a few more shows, gain your confidence. Like, he is like a life coach without realizing he's a life coach, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on how brutal you can take it. Like, I can tell you now, there's going to be a lot of people who couldn't take his style. But I guess I have the patience to kind of go, yeah, I get where you're coming from. I get it. So, you know, I went busking with one of our really good friends and did that, and I was like, oh gosh, are people going to like that?
That is actually probably one of the best things that you can do.
Yeah.
Because it helps you deal with your own emotions around people's reactions and rejection.
Correct.
I was talking to a fellow photographer on the podcast, Sean, and we're going to do one of the things I said to him was, when you start off or when you're trying to get good, the best thing to do is like go to a busy like thoroughfare like Burke Street Mall with your camera and just ask strangers to take their photos.
Yeah.
Because they will either say yes or no. And when they say no, you have to deal with your own emotions as to how to work out what to say.
Yes,
and
how to deal with it.
It helps you like understand, like dealing with rejection and stuff like that. And because there's always people walking through, there's always going to be other people that say yes.
Yes. Well, and that's so true. And that was exactly sort of what happened. It was kind of like actually Cassidy, when she came on, I really resonated with a lot of what she said.
Yeah.
And I was just like, when I met her, I was like, you are just amazing. Like this aura about her.
Yeah.
And she's just
That's right. You got me onto her.
Yeah.
She was so cool.
And I thought, you guys are going to be awesome. Like I was just like, I just want to hear more about her because she has so much to offer.
Yeah.
And she's such a go-getter. And I loved that. And she gave me a lot of sort of insight. So that might be my phone. Let me just turn it off. I'm so sorry. I'm that person.
That's all right. I was like, did the camera go again? No.
Yeah, and so
you're a busy woman.
I am. It's like, that could be my family messaging me.
When's the next seafood broth?
Well, yeah, they're probably expecting it on Christmas, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, maybe we'll see. But what was I saying?
Cassidy.
Cassidy. So she sort of opened that sort of window for me. What was I saying before Cassidy?
Oh, about the busking thing.
Oh, yeah. So, I'm the what's that, self-imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
That's me, like to a T. And I was like, who's going to like me? Who's going to listen to me? Who's going to, like, how am I going to be, like even coming into the podcast, I'm like, I'm not that interesting. But I'm like, I'm just having a great conversation with you because I feel like I've known you for like 30 years.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't care if you think you're not interesting. I'll get something out of you.
I know. And I was like, and here I am just going,
yeah.
So you're doing your job.
Underdiagnosed ADHD.
I know. You know what? For a while, I was sitting there because I briefly worked for psychiatrists, and I would sit there going, maybe I'm answering 5 to these questions. Like, it could be me.
That's funny.
But yeah, so when I did the busking, I was kind of like, oh gosh, is anyone going to want to give me money? And I was so shocked. Like my first, time doing it, I think we got paid $180. And I thought, wow, like I was so shocked that, and it wasn't because of the money value. It was just the fact that many people were willing and thought I was good enough, that they wanted to give me something.
Yeah.
And it just boosted my confidence that bit more, and it just made me want to do more and understand more. And so then Gio was like, let's take you to an open mic. So, he's done things in steps for me, right? That's what I'm saying.
He's like a smart man.
He is a smart man.
He was life coaching you through your singing career.
Right? So you could obviously see the joy it was bringing me. And I think for him, he was like, great, I've got a missus who's going to play music because music is life for him, right? There's nothing else he'll be doing. Like he always says that to me. He's like, I don't know what else I'd be doing in my life. Like music just gives me so much purpose. So music's on his mind all the time. And so I did an open mic, and the woman running that, she's from ASV Vocal Academy. So she was like, I'd love for you to come down. So, went and met her, and she said, yeah, actually, you're a really good singer. Let's work with this. And so then I went into this academy, and I built such a great bond with her. And, she was just amazing.
All as a result of doing an open mic.
Correct. All from an open mic, and I think that day I sang to 2 people. So that was another thing, like you're singing to 2 people and they liked it, but she had this camera there because she couldn't be there. So, someone took the footage back and she was like, yeah, I actually really like you. And she took me under her wing and she taught me a lot. And I just learned so much that when Gio sits in the car and he goes, told ya. Like, told ya.
Bro, that's something that you don't say.
But that's the thing, right? He's that guy. He will say the things.
It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and and people always say this, like he's been so honest with me from the very beginning. Like he'll bring up, this girl I used to see and do this and that, and all the boys, like they're just like, like, how are you taking this, Jess? But our conversation is so open.
Yeah.
That I always said to him, that if you can tell me everything that you can think of, that if anything comes up, it's not a shock to me. And my parents are similar. you know, and I think that was just something I really liked about Gio was his honesty. And so sometimes his honesty can be so brutal. Like I remember I went to catch up with him when we were early dating, and he was like, "You're not going in public wearing that with me." You know, so he walked out, and I was like, "What's wrong with this fit? Like, I like it." And he's like, "Nuh-uh, like, there's no way." He's like, "You're beautiful. Don't hide behind," because I always, am conservative because, again, culturally, we're taught to dress conservatively.
Right.
Yeah.
So he wanted to like you looking a little bit more like
he was like, because I wore this
spicy.
like I wore this oversized black shirt and these leggings and chucks, and I was like, "Yeah, this is cool." And he's like, "No, this is not cool. Let's go and get you an outfit." So, he got me this dress, this blue dress and ballet shoes because that's what he wanted. So, and so he was like, "Yes, this is my woman." So he's very vocal about like what he likes. Which I think is good because I think it's like having a friend who doesn't tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Are they really your friend?
Yeah.
Or that you could be in another room and that person's going to talk well of you because there's nothing to hide. And so I think that's what I do value about him. Sometimes I'm like, "You're too much and I need space." But then we come back and we're like, "Yeah, okay, let's talk about this." Which has kind of been the way it's been with our music. So even I could do a gig and it's gone brilliantly. And he'll be like, "So you could have worked on that song, like this song and that song. You could do this and that." And I was like, "So you're telling me like it wasn't that great?" And he's like, "No, like I don't need to tell you that it's great, but there's more. There's more." And he's just always like that. And he'll always say, "I'm the best bass player in the world." And it's this mindset. He's all about mindset. And the amount of growth I've seen him when it comes to thinking about things, it's like, I really like the space that you're in.
Yeah.
It's so much growth on your behalf, but it's also helping me grow. And that was what he taught me. Even culturally, it's not normal for us to speak up or say anything. It's kind of like you take what's being said, bottle that down, and move on.
Yeah.
And so on my Indian side, it was very common for the women to say things to you, and they're not, I don't think they're trying to think they're being malicious, but it's so detrimental, in the way you perceive yourself.
Yeah, as in the delivery.
Yeah.
As well as the content.
Yeah, like it's kind of like you see the one week, "Oh, you've put on weight. Oh, you need to stop eating. Oh, you're too skinny now. You need to have more to eat. Oh, you're getting old now."
Shut up.
And it's kind of like, this is how you're greeted.
Yeah.
Why are you dressed like that? Who are you trying to impress?
It's just so opinionated.
Right?
Bro, shut up.
Exactly. And, even because I'm left-handed.
But I think to your point, it is a cultural thing. It's just a cultural thing. And if you have that understanding, then you just kind of like water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
Like try to like brush it off.
That's it. And I'm like, there are so many people that wouldn't deal with that very well. And I know that I didn't for a while. Once I was trying to sort of sort out who I am and really sort of loving myself and all that. And sometimes I can go, "Oh, maybe, I think about it too much." But I'm like, why am I doing that? Like, it's silly. Just enjoy and embrace what it is.
I think what's interesting though, and just I'll just take it back to the music side of things, like with Gio pushing you and supporting you and giving you like advice on things to do, there is something about just could hear an aeroplane go past. There is something about the mindset that you have in order to one, obviously like take on his advice, but then to be open enough to receive whatever is going to come at you, like going to the open mic and then having that woman from the academy go, "Hey, you should come down," and like, and then being open to like learning off her, and then being open to doing the busking, and like that's just, sometimes I think people will discount the little steps that you can make because they want to know what they're going to get out of it, like in the long term, but not having that as a form of a carrot or like a direction, like just accept what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And just run with it, because anything can happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's all about how your mind is in order to receive that and what you do once you have, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very much sort of, that kind of way, because even even now, with chocolate. So as you would know, like Gio mentioned, chocolate was created during COVID.
Yeah.
Because originally I'm an artist on my own, which was Jessie Maz, and which is still Jessie Maz. She's kind of taking the back seat and really sort of pushing.
Masterminding.
Masterminding, yeah. And sort of building this business, because, you know, I'm always that person, like, how do you know? Like, how do you know that that's going to work? You need to sell it to me before I give 100%.
Oh, you're that person.
I am.
Shit, we wouldn't work out.
Really?
Because I'm always the optimist. Yeah. I'm always like, why wouldn't it work?
Yeah. Well, I think that's why I like that about Gio's, because he's like, well, why wouldn't it work?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, well,
of course it's going to work.
Yeah.
I came up with the idea.
Exactly, right? So that's where he's sort of like that. I'm like, but how do you know? And I think it's that sort of thinking we've always had growing up. Like, how do you know that that's going to work? That's why you should be doing this. You know, so it's kind of that old trait that stays there.
Yeah.
But once I give 100%, like I'm giving 110 to it.
Yeah.
So now if I'm going to make this work, it's going to work.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, you're all coming down with me. Like, you know, like
Titanic is sinking.
Exactly.
If this shit ain't working.
Literally. And so, you know, he was like, okay, I want to do this thing, weddings and stuff like that is where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And I did originally bring this concept up to him a long time ago, but I guess because my knowledge in the music world wasn't as sound as his, so I guess my delivery just didn't work the way that he, you know, could understand. So years later, I was like, well, this is kind of what I was looking at, because this can go wherever. We take it, it's ours. But we then had to really establish and understand, well, what is our brand? What is it that we're selling? What is it we're doing? And then we went to a few seminars and things like that. That's where we met Paula. That's where this was done by Mal Yu.
Yeah.
So she sort of does a lot of that branding and marketing, and she just, wealth of knowledge she has, and she just gives it. And I think, wow, that's amazing. And there's always room for growth. So you know, that's what we sort of focused on in COVID. And then we started to deliver it. And by this time, like, I've been doing music from 2015. So I've kind of now understood, well, what do I want to do? How do I want this to work for us? And then that's sort of where we sort of built what we want our brand to look like for couples. Like, if I was to buy something, am I going to put my money in it? Am I going to go, this is worth doing? Because there's so much talent. But how do I know, like, you're the talent I want? And that's even sometimes how I think of myself. And I think that can let me down sometimes, where I'm like, well, there's hundreds and thousands of singers like me, and we sing the same songs. But what makes me different? Well, sometimes I say that to Jim. I'm like, oh, well, you know, you got these young girls doing these runs for days, and then there's me. And he's like, well, you're a powerhouse. Like, you've got your own niche, and we know your sound, and your sound is your sound. Like, and people love you. Like, don't worry about that. If you're going to think this way, then what are you doing? Think about it. Like, is this what you want? And, you know.
I think it's okay to think like that, because it is this imposter syndrome piece, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember which entrepreneur said it, but they were saying that if you're not going through imposter syndrome every 18 months, you're not growing enough.
Yeah.
Because every 18 months you should be in unfamiliar situations and feeling like, one, you shouldn't be there, or two, you're like an imposter. But it's because you're developing as an individual, and you're kind of like manifesting what the image of you or who you are is, which is why it feels so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it is this I think it's this like strange piece around personal growth. And if you're committed to your own personal growth, then you should be committed to being uncomfortable all the time. And the side effect of being uncomfortable is imposter syndrome.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know?
which makes total sense. Yeah. And I think, especially in the last year since we've come out and launched, well, there has been such unfamiliar territory that I've stepped into, and I'll be like, gee, I'm so nervous. Do you think this is going to work? Are they going to like it?
Do you get nervous?
I do.
Really?
I always get nervous. Always.
How do you deal with it?
So the way that I deal with it is kind of, I go, why am I doing it? Okay, they like it. And I then go, okay, what is a song that is going to help me just sort of smooth in there, right? Because I'm like, the first song is what kind of establishes for me how things are going to go. So sometimes I might go with a strong number, or sometimes I just go something mellow to work myself in it to see where my vocals are at the time. And then I get through that first song and I'm okay. But I'll always be nervous. So, you know, it's probably like TMI, but I'm like, I clear the bowels, you know, before I go anywhere.
I think that's completely normal. You know why? Because your body's going into fight mode.
Yeah. Yeah.
And someone said to me, oh, no, it was another entrepreneur that I follow or listen to. And they said, if you're not getting nervous doing the thing that's important to you, you shouldn't be doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's not important to you.
Yeah.
It's this piece around having like expectations and performance anxiety and wanting to perform and, you know, like all that type of stuff. And this build up of emotion and, you know, and then your bowels want to like, you get the shits.
Yeah, literally, right? And so I'm like, I clear out and I just try and get myself in this mode of like, okay, there's nothing that could step in my way that if I get in front of that mic, it's all just going to go to, you know, shits, right? And yeah, I always find that, and especially because we've had so many like couples like actually take us on, which has been amazing.
As in for like weddings and stuff.
Yeah. Like, you know, in our first year, like it's just been so lovely to see how much they've received us. Like we're all established. Yeah. We've done a lot of amazing things outside of this, but now coming in and going, trust us against these other guys that have been around for 20 plus years. Yeah. And they take a chance on us and you feel so strong because like this sets the tone for the rest of their life because they remember this. This is their biggest day for them. And I always get nervous for that. And then when you finish it and they come back to you so happy, like that is such a reward. And like yesterday I went to my daughter, she's 5, so everyone's at this parties. So we're always taking her everywhere. And one of the ladies there asked me, like, what's your favorite song to sing? And I was like, I don't have a favorite song.
Happy birthday.
You know, that's the awkward, you know, like, happy birthday.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, but all I could say to her is when I see people smile and I can see that they have felt that, that's it. That's my favorite song, you know, for that day or whatever it is. I love that because for me, I'm just like, I did what I was set out to do. And I think that's how I know, like, this is what I want to do. I love seeing people happy. And even when I'm on the stage, people have said to me, even my family, you're a totally different person. Because I'm quite reserved in nature in comparison to Gio.
Really?
I know, you wouldn't believe it.
Somehow I don't think so.
Well, you butted me up before I got here. Not in that way, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, you know, I did the podcast with you a while ago.
You did.
And then we've just been trying to like get this happening.
Yeah.
And during that time, like obviously like side conversations and all this type of stuff. So so yeah, I guess it's
we've built that relationship and that rapport before coming here, so it's just easy to chat. But yeah, like I'm always so reserved in nature, and so
it is. I think it's interesting because it does show your level of commitment to the skill and to your performance.
Yeah,
like you will play you'll put on a different hat to play that role, and you'll embody a different alter ego.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's probably why your family were like, oh my God, you're a completely different person. Like you own the stage, or like your singing is just like what Gio said, like you're a powerhouse.
Yeah. And it's like I never thought about that, but I'm like, yeah, like when I'm on the stage, it's a total different world for me. Like, so even though I get nervous in that beginning, once I'm in there and I'm enjoying it, like nothing else matters. And then I forget about time. I
100%.
forget about everything. And then you're running on adrenaline, because we're not the conventional musicians, or the stereotype musicians, we drink lots of alcohol and all this stuff. We're not that. We're so opposite, They always go to, you have drinks you can have. We're like, oh, no, can you just give me like an orange juice? That's my treat because I won't have sugar before I do any performance.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's just something that I'm committed to. And like how you said, I wear a different hat. So, one day I'm admin and one day I'm, their go-to person.
One day you're mum.
And then I'm mum, and then I'm wife, and then I work for gastroenterology.
I think it's also interesting, like people will have a version of you in their head as to what they think you should be like. And then when they're confronted or they see a different version, they're like, oh, my God. Like they're almost shocked.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, well, what did you expect me to do?
Yeah.
Like be the same person that you think that I am, but like I'm 110% committed to this.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And I think as well, when I am being different people for different things, when they do get a snippet of something else, they're like, wait, you do that too? And I'm like, yeah. And so people are like, how do you juggle all these things? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just do it. Like, you know.
It's like what you said to me before we started recording. You're like, what? You got a corporate job as well?
Exactly.
And I'm like, yeah.
Exactly.
I know it's hard to believe, but like, I just try to get everything done.
Yeah. And
I enjoy doing it.
And you enjoy doing it, right? And so it's kind of like, there are so many facets to us, and I think sometimes we just don't tap into it. We choose which ones we would like to tap into the most, but then there are all these little things. Like before I came here, like I was saying, like Aricia, she was like, Mum, can I come? I promise I'll be quiet in the corner.
Oh, she could have come.
She could have come. I know, but then she would have been like, Mum.
She could have just played with the cats.
She would have, and then she'd asked us a million questions about the cats because she's in this age group where she's like wants to just talk about everything.
That's so cute.
And so I just said to her, look,
it would be a podcast with her, not you.
You know, and I'd be totally okay with that, because I'm like that. I'm not like what are they called, those
helicopter parent?
Well, some of my family might think I might be.
You're a helicopter parent?
I'm very like, please don't do this and don't do that, and I'm just very cautious, I think. But I think as she's gotten older, like I'm just like, yeah, Claire, you can do, but please just make sure she does this and this, I being a mum is probably the most rewarding for me as well. And I say that in a very strange way because I love being a mum, but there's so much to being a mum that is not great. But then there's like parts of being a mum which are great, It's so hard to explain.
You're like, I so love being a mum, but in a strange way.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like we say these words and then we don't realize, well, actually, there are days behind being a mum that's really testing.
People don't see that.
No.
People don't see that
and then
shit.
You like hate yourself sometimes because you growled them for something, and you're just like, I can't believe I got so upset at her, or did I handle that well?
There's no rule book.
No rule book, right? And like Aricia, all she's known is us doing music. So even when I was pregnant with her, I was singing, had my C-section 4 days later, was back on the stage. And I shouldn't have been, but I was.
Oh my God, this cat just like spewed up. I'm so sorry. I was just like watching him going, Dude, what are you doing? Sorry, I gotta just
fix that.
Oh my God, dude. What the hell? He was like convulsing.
Oh, what did he take?
Oh, I don't know.
No, you're fine. As long as he's okay now. You okay? You're just like, yeah, it's whatevs.
I'm not editing that out.
Oh, you should. I did the quick, cheeky look at my phone.
Oh!
I know, but I didn't really see much.
Oh, no, I didn't see much. Nothing happening on my phone.
I was like,
either.
it is, but I'm like, you know how it has to do the face recognition? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
just put it back.
No, I don't edit anything.
Oh, there you go.
We just keep rolling.
Yeah, lucky I didn't pick my nose or anything. Thought about like blowing my nose, but I was like, no, it's okay. It's fine.
Sorry, you were talking about being a mum.
Yeah.
And how you're like.
Oh, yes.
There are some days where you're like.
I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so hard, you know. Or then sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't react that way.
Yeah.
And because we are really pushing with our chocolate music, we're always busy 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And so yesterday, you know, we went and saw our artist who was working for us and just made sure she was okay.
Yeah.
And then we surprised Aricia to take her to the movies. And so...
Oh, what movie did you watch?
We watched Moana 2.
Oh.
And it was really beautiful. I actually really liked it.
Yeah.
And she, you know, was
Lots of singing.
Lots of singing. I actually didn't mind the songs. You know, like sometimes there's some you're like, yeah, like you could scrap that song. But then like some of them I'm like, no, they're actually quite good. And I quite enjoy Disney.
Yeah.
I'm a Disney collector anyway. So
yeah.
That's my thing. So she really liked that, and we sort of try to make some of our days like just about her.
Yeah.
You know, what she wants to do. And I guess it's easier her being an only child.
It is easier only having one child to deal with.
Whereas, you know, like my mum, there was how many of us? So it's kind of
Five.
like 5, yeah. Including me, 6.
6. Sorry, 6.
Yeah.
And your grandmother, 9.
Yeah. Exactly. So, you know, but like my parents, they always gave us like really good experiences. And I think that's what I'm so focused on instilling, so that when she looks back on her life, she can see that we worked and we were busy and we were striving for something.
Yeah, but you also gave her experiences and memories.
Yeah, and so I think I'm always thinking about those things for her, because I have some family who were like, well, my parents just worked.
Yeah.
And they just bought me everything I wanted, but like I feel so disconnected.
Yeah.
And it's like I am always worried about that kind of thing. But yeah, I love being a mum. Like I don't even sometimes remember life before her, you know? Like I was like, was I pregnant? And she was like, no, you weren't pregnant. Like what?
No, it just came in the stalk via the stalk.
And so yeah, like that's just what we're always about.
All right, we'll talk movies now.
Yes.
Your favorite movie. All-time favorite movie.
Oh, my all-time favorite. You know, it's going to sound strange because so my all-time favorite is The Little Mermaid.
Oh.
Because I'm a big Ariel fan.
Yeah.
And so I'm
Island Girl, that's why.
Yeah. Right. But another one is up there, like it's so out there, but I loved the Insidious sort of series.
Right.
So I love, you know, the thriller spooky, not so much like gore.
Yeah.
But I do like a real good thriller story. So, but there's so many good movies out there that I just kind of go, oh, but I really love that one. But I really liked how they did that.
Yeah.
Because it like spooked the living daylights out of me. But I'm like, but it's such
a
good story.
You don't mind a scary movie?
I don't. I love a good scary movie.
Oh.
And I mean, I guess thrillers are more my thing, like, because I like that, you know, craziness of
the psychological working out what's going on.
Yeah. And I'm like, run, you know, why are you running? Like, that's not the direction. Whereas, you know, there's so much blood and gore.
Just imagining you sitting at home watching a movie, screaming at the TV, don't go that way.
Yeah. I'm like, no. But I went to how Melbourne show, and they had like a horror room. I was like, I will die in like 10 seconds because I just screamed in the corner like this crazy person because I was like, this is too scary.
Yeah.
So I'm no good for that. I'm like one of those. But I love a really good story.
Have you been to an escape room?
I have. But I went with work friends. So, when you're amongst some of your work colleagues, there's just some people who are just like, I'm controlling all of this. So I was kind of like, okay, cool. I'm just here for the drinks then.
Yeah.
But I do want to take Gio for one, but he's kind of like, no, that's boring. So,
just surprise him.
Well, we love ghost tours. And the very first ghost tour that I booked, he decided to get appendicitis. And I was like, oh, my gosh.
I mean, you can't really plan that, can you?
No, you can't. But he made me feel like sometimes he can be like, oh, this hurts, and I'm like, whatever. You'll be right. Like, and I guess maybe that's how we've always been. Like, just rub some dirt on it. You'll be fine. But when the doctor was like, no, he's got appendicitis, I was like, okay, this is real. And so, while he was on the bed, resting after his surgery, I was kind of like, damn it, like we could have been there. So I was trying to get a refund. They wouldn't give me a refund.
He's just had surgery?
Yeah, I know. I sound so awful, so I'm sorry, Gio.
No. You were like, we spent this money. We could still go.
Yeah, and he wanted to.
Let me get the wheelchair.
Yeah, and he was like, I'll be out of here. And I'm like, you're not leaving. Like, you're going to be resting. Like, trust me. He's like, no, I'll be, after this is done, I'll be right. I'm like, no, you're not. But we did eventually go. And
Melbourne jail?
No. What's the other jail? Where Chopper Reed was in. I can't remember what that one's called now.
Is it Bowen Heads or something?
Yeah.
Or somewhere down there.
Something like, and we went to that and that was quite good. We enjoyed that. So we enjoy that together, like, Ghost Adventures. Like, I binge watched Ghost Adventures and I spooked the living daylights out of myself, having nightmares. And I was like, what am I doing? And he's like, I don't know why you do that, but I like that. I don't know. I like the thrill, I guess.
That's an interesting characteristic. Like, you're willing to spook yourself where you give yourself nightmares, but you enjoy it.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm done, But I think I'm also curious. And just like Gio, like, he's curious, So we're always just like, we want to know more about that. Like, what's there?
So do you believe in ghosts?
I do. I do. Yeah.
Have you seen a ghost?
I feel I have, right? And the only reason why I say this is because my mum, for a very long time, very sensitive to the supernatural. And people can be like, she's talking a whole lot of crock of shit. No, it's for real. Like, even Gio will tell you. So there was once we were watching TV and all our family were there, like in my mum's house. And we just saw this black face and her hands were like this and there was no eyes. And it was like she was like screaming at us. And it was in the corner of the TV. And I said to Mum, can you see that? And she's like, yeah. And it would just disappear. And so, like, we'd sit in the car with her. The radio would go on and up and down, up and down. She'd just get like these weird phone sounds. And she'd come to my room. Jess, can you hear this? Like, can you hear what I'm hearing? So she'd spook me out. But then, it was like you'd take videos of her and there'd be orbs everywhere and things like that. And even when we went to the Melbourne jail, when we first went there, I was scared for 2 weeks after it. I was like, this is freaky, because I could feel
Yes,
things.
why do you do it to yourself?
I know, right? But
bro,
and then I went back, like,
and then you went
and
back.
Then I went back, years later with
Oh, mate.
I know. I don't know why I like the thrill.
You are so interesting.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know why, and I just find it really interesting to kind of tap into that. Like, even like,
Is it the fact that maybe because like even though you get scared, you're like interested to see what else is going to happen.
Yeah, I think so.
You're going to see something else, or like, is it going to be a different experience?
Yeah, like, I don't really know what it is that just sort of kind of gets me going about it. Like, I don't really understand why I'm so interested.
So it must mean you're spiritual.
Yes. I do feel like I'm quite spiritual. Like I've grown up in a Catholic home, and so I do follow a lot of like our Catholic traditions and things like that. And I know that there are a lot of perceptions and thoughts around it because it's such a structured religion, and then there's a lot of bad eggs and every sort of thing. But
There's bad eggs everywhere.
Exactly. And so when I went through all my sacraments, we did it a lot older in age than the conventional sort of you do it at this age and that age. So we did it a little bit later in life. But I think it was beneficial to us because we got to understand a little bit more about the religion and how it then sat with us. And so my mum, like, she's also been so open about that sort of thing. And she's always been intrigued. And I think that's probably where we get it from, is that she's always intrigued by the afterlife. And we love mediums. And I've been too scared to go to a medium, though.
Oh, you should go.
I'm curious to. Like, my mum, she went to a couple and she felt let down. And then, you know, she didn't think they were as authentic as it had been perceived.
I think so when my best mate passed away, so the one that I moved here for, his parents went and saw a medium, and his dad's Buddhist, and he said that he was like very skeptical about what was happening, but she so the medium like saw his mum and his sister first, and then saw his dad last, and had never met this woman before.
Wow.
And when they started, he was like skeptical, but then she started like saying things that only Christian would know.
Yeah.
And, you know, like these side conversations that they had when him and his dad used to go down to Great Ocean Road and spend fishing weekends down there, and the conversations that they had.
And it's like things he would only know.
Yeah, things that he would only know, you know.
And it's like you wouldn't put that on social media to give them like an inkling of finding out who you are before they met you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So, yeah, then you kind of go, wow. Like.
And then, you know, his dad said to me that, he, like, Christian was telling him through the medium, like, don't worry about me. Like, stop crying about me. Like, I'm having a good time where I am, enjoying my Jameson and, you know, all that type of stuff. And, like, I was bawling my eyes out at the time when Jim was telling me this. And then I ended that conversation. I was like, fuck you, man. Fuck you for, like
doing that. Like, so it puts you in this vulnerable mindset of things, because you kind of go, wow.
But it was almost like this, I ain't gonna cry for you anymore now because you told me not to.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I will, like, every now and then. Like 23rd of December's coming up. That was the last time I had we went out together and had a meal. But like, I just, after that conversation, I was like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
You know, fine.
Yeah.
I ain't going to cry for you anymore.
Yeah. But in that moment, did that feel so true for you? Like, that was his character that made you go, yeah, well, this is my response to you.
Yeah.
Because that's you and I get it. Fine. I'm doing what you're telling me.
Yeah. Which I found really annoying because I generally don't do what people tell me to do. I do the opposite.
Yeah.
But, like, then things started to open up for me. Wow. And I think he was, like, opening doors.
Yeah.
And he was guiding me, and he's still guiding me.
Yeah, he's
guiding me right now, you know.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
Yeah. And I think what's so beautiful about that as well is that you allowed yourself to receive that. Do you know what I mean? Like, receiving that is just, and it just opens your mind. Like, funny, we say this, Moana 2, right? We're watching it, and from the first one, if you haven't watched Moana, spoiler, sorry, her grandmother has passed. And so she meets with her grandmother again because she's bringing all the people together. And the line that got me, that just sat with me, is I'm still with you. It just looks a little different.
Fuck you,
And I thought, oh my gosh, I really needed to hear that, because it's like sometimes I don't know why I do this, and maybe it's a phase of my life, but sometimes I think about what's going to happen if you pass away and
when you die,
because it's that unknown, right?
Yeah.
And I even do this about, when you give birth, you're so afraid of it because you don't know it. And then you go through it, and then you're like, oh, so this is what it is. Yeah, it hurts and whatever else.
It's like when you were singing. The first time you were singing.
Exactly.
Like you're holding that microphone and you're just like looking at the screen. Because you've never done it before.
I've never done it before.
Everything is impossible until you do it once.
Exactly.
And then it's possible.
That's right. And, and like when you hear about the afterlife and where people go and how they are, and it's just like, well, what does that look like? Because everyone's at some point is going to do that. And like how we receive it is really going to matter. Because if we close ourselves off, like, are we going to receive that next chapter of our life? You know? Hi. And I don't know why that sat with me so well. And it's these Disney movies. Like they just, or maybe I just love them so much. And then I'm like, this was a great movie.
I think Disney definitely they will come up with a story and they'll have these moments in there that obviously like really resonate with you and resonate with lots of people. That's why a lot of the Disney movies are so successful,
Well, they've really thought about their audience. They knew that parents are going to be watching this because they're taking their children. And so they need to make it friendly in that way that, we're all going to connect with it in some way. Like I've heard more people talk well of certain movies like Inside Out too. And I think it's such a great way to talk about emotions and,
we need to talk more about emotions.
Yeah.
Actually, rewind. We just need to talk more.
Yes, we do. We need, and not behind a screen all the time. I think we forget the value in conversations like this, right? We go, wow, it's a podcast and you're talking. And it's like, but we're actually just having a really cool conversation.
Yeah. Which is actually why I set up the podcast. And I've mentioned this a number of times before, but I set it up because social media is not very social.
No.
And so I wanted to do something different other than photography and kind of like bring, I guess, to life the characters behind the photos.
Yes.
And so I was interviewing after photo shoots and then I just like put it up. I don't even edit anything. I just like put it up. And the feedback that I got from like people all over Australia were like, oh my God, like, this is so amazing. Like these beautiful women that you like photograph, they're just normal people. And I'm like, yeah, they are.
They are just people.
They're just normal people, And the little, I guess, bit of, compliment in there was that, yes, I do have a high skill set in terms of my photography, but like I have a personality. I even have a personality, like outside of photography, and I love to talk to people and, like all that type of stuff. So...
Yeah, and I think, like you said, just having a conversation, it's so healthy for the soul.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sometimes I don't get to talk as much as I like to, as you know. Like Gia loves a conversation. And so, we can have some really great conversations, but he'll probably, take on the most of it.
Yeah.
But I just love that though, because it's like, he's willing to just like
you allow him to.
Yes. Sometimes I'm like, I need to cook. Like I need to get this done.
You can have the conversation, Gia.
Yeah. And and sometimes I talk to people all day, and so you just kind of like, I don't want to talk now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just great to just be able to sort of do that thing.
What advice would you give your younger self?
The advice I would give my answer, just to trust yourself. Just trust yourself. I think for me, growing up in such a background where there's so many cultural viewpoints, I didn't always trust in myself. Like it was kind of like, you have to make sure that you're being this person, you're doing what is culturally acceptable because we come from two different fields, right? And so like my dad, like we probably grew up a lot more Indian. So I used to speak the language. I understand it.
Okay.
But I don't speak it as well anymore because, speak English all the time.
Yeah.
And so you kind of were just like doing what you were told in a way.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like, okay, I'm ticking those boxes. That makes me a good person. It makes sure I'm doing all the things that you're meant to. Like even growing up, on my school holidays when I'd be at my grandma's house, she would be like, you have to clean the house because you need to be a good woman for your man. Men want a woman who can cook and clean. And so, this is what I did on my school holidays.
Wow.
Yeah, and that wasn't fun. But I sometimes go, well, actually, now I look at it in hindsight.
That wasn't fun, Grandma.
I know. She used to like flood her house and she'd have us scrubbing.
What?
The carpet. Yeah.
What do you mean she used to flood her house?
She would literally
by accident or intentionally?
On purpose. Yeah. That was how she would dry clean her floors. Like
wow.
she was super like very clean woman because she used to work in the hospital. So she actually, my dad's mum, she would skip school to go learn how to clean. Like that's the generation, So it's like you're cooking and cleaning because that's what a man wants, right? You say that today.
You say that today and you get the response of, actually, I'm not going to say it, but
you know what I'm saying,
yeah.
Right? So back then it was just kind of like, okay, well, that's just what it is.
Why would I need a man to do that? I can do it myself.
Exactly. And you know what? I'm still somewhat like that now. Like I'm still very like, I'm driven for these things. Like my parents, they're kind of like, you've got to learn, you got to do it yourself. Can't rely on anyone. It's all about you. But yeah, so that's what I did. And so I had this mindset that, okay, if I have to get a man, the best way to keep him is make sure his belly's full and his house clean and I'm the perfect wife. But it's like we don't live like that. And sometimes, I still use that as my way because I don't know about you, but I'm an act of service person. That's how I show a lot of my love is act of service. So for me, like making sure my house is clean, my family are fed, like I'm like, that makes me happy because that's sort of what I've grown up knowing.
It's your love language.
Exactly. But it's like now as I'm getting older and older, I'm like, okay, well, actually society is a little bit different now. I can do other ways of showing acts of service and that can be with words and how I respond. Like Gio, a lot more affectionate than I am. I grew up not showing affection because it's not that my parents didn't show affection. It was just kind of like, you don't do that in front of people. It's not socially acceptable.
Like what? Like hold hands?
Hold hands, kiss or hold each other on the leg or rub each other. Like it's just
a different generation.
It is. And
a different generation and different culture.
Correct. And so like, anything that was like this would have been considered, you shouldn't wear that. You need to be covered and your dress needs to be at your knees and that kind of thing.
Which is why Gio was like, you're not wearing that. We're going to get you something a bit more spicier that actually fits in with how I want you to look like.
Right. And so that was like a whole new like world for me because I'm like,
yeah.
oh, I don't know this. Like this is too much. I'm too vulnerable now.
How did you like navigate that with him though? Because you would have had like your mum and your dad like in the back of your head and you'd be like, oh.
Well, I guess my mum.
I just sounded like a little girl then.
Well, my mum, she's always been like, in a way, my mum has been open about a lot of things at the same time. So she would be like, well, if if your man likes something, then you do that for him. Like, because, he's going to do things that you will like. So my mum should always be like, don't be a prude. Right. She's like, don't be a prude.
So she was a little bit more open to the ideas of.
Yeah. And she was just kind of like, be open with that person, but be safe, of course.
Yeah.
And she's like, protect yourself, But I don't want to grow babies.
Have the knife in the handbag.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Like
or the knuckle dusters.
Well, my parents are like, if somebody is going to strike you, you strike them. Like you don't start the fight, but if they hit you, then you've got every right to protect yourself.
Shit.
You know, so it's, and because my mum, she grew up in Otara in New Zealand, so that's considered like the Bronx.
Yeah.
And she was like one of the only white kids, because my mum, being Polynesian Scottish as well, she's got blonde hair, she's fair, she's got green eyes.
She's got blonde hair?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, but she's got a mouth of an islander.
Oh.
You know, so, and she just keeps it real. And she doesn't hold bar, you know, whereas my dad is a bit more quiet.
Yeah.
More reserved. Maybe when he's with his friends, it's totally different. But, yeah, she was always kind of like, well, if your man likes it, like, do that. Like, you know, your dad, he likes these things, so I would do that for him. But you do have to be mindful that that's behind your doors.
Yeah.
Not so much in front of, like, all the people, because it makes them uncomfortable. So it's kind of like navigating that with Gio once we moved in together. It was kind of like, okay, well, I'll do that for him, but I was still trying to love that version of it, of myself doing that, because it was a world I'm not used to. So, like, sometimes I still find, like, there are things he'd like me to wear and I'll wear it. And I'm like, but I'm not wearing this in public, you know. And he was like, but why? Like, you know, it's fine. Like, you look fine. And so, like, he'll be like, wear this, be comfortable. So.
That's the wrong word to use, Gio. Fine.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably...
You gotta use some other descriptive words.
Well, he does. And I guess I'm like, if I said that, then people would be like, TMI, you know. Like, he says and does things that are probably, like, you know, it's keeps us, you know, cheeky.
Yeah.
But he's also, I think that's what I respect about him as well, is that he understands that in our culture too.
Yeah.
And so he just knows, like, he's just respectful.
See, it's this loving relationship that you have.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I guess I do like the guy.
He'll do.
Yeah. Well, I always joke.
Pushing me to get singing done.
Yeah.
Changing my outfits.
Yeah. And he'll say things that kind of, really push the boundaries. But I think about it and I'm like, if there was anybody else, I don't really know.
Yeah.
You know, who else it would be. And some people he's really rubbed the wrong way and they all think that I'm controlled by him. I'm like, you obviously haven't heard me either. Like, he closes the doors and the windows when the neighbors hear me, because he's like, they're going to think you're a crazy person, like, yelling like your mum. And I'm like...
That is so funny. Now, you've recently started doing some regular gigs at, like, Groove Train.
Yes.
Yeah.
I should probably talk more work, hey.
No, we can talk about anything.
Yeah. Well, Groove Train, yeah. So what happened was I applied. Like, just through, they had this, like, local council, you know, in our area.
Yeah.
And so they, you know, queried and they said, hey, would you like to do, like, an hour set just for a live local festival?
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, okay, sure. You know,
that's cool.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, okay then. So they had placed me at the Groove Train in our area.
Yeah.
And the owner loved it. The owners loved it and they were just kind of like, can you come do this every Saturday? And I was like, okay. Like, I guess. Like,
that's
why not?
good.
Yeah, so it was just kind of like they really received what I did.
And
then, yeah, it just became a regular thing. And they just really trusted us, which was really nice. And you like that, don't you?
He does. He's just he's a cuddle snatcher.
I love it because my cat, she's the same. And then, like, you stop and she's like, meow.
Yeah.
Like,
he'll, like, nudge you.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, fine.
The other one just, like, gives me kisses.
Oh, bless.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it just became a regular thing, and then we sort of just workshopped it with them and said, I think if let us kind of give our expertise in this and trust in us, and let's do this. And we've been there since August.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And so you also, unfortunately, I couldn't come, but you had this Mazda thing as well. And how was that? How did that go?
It was great. We had a really, really
in
lovely
Dalesford,
time.
right?
In Dalesford, yeah. So they just reached out to us and we were like, yeah, sure, like, let's do this. And it was quite the travel. Like, we had a lot of crazy things, like tire going against on the Westgate, just bouncing.
Oh.
We were like, oh my gosh, like everything you think of on this really hot day to get there. But yeah, they really loved it. And they originally we thought, oh, maybe it's because we're there for 2 nights. We thought it was going to be like 2 lots of people, different. So we just planned one set. So we did it well, nailed it. They loved us. And then they were talking about us at the local pub. So
Gio told me. Yeah.
So when we were walking around like the next day, they were like, oh, yeah, you guys are Chocolate. And we're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, you've been talked about, which was really lovely.
Yeah.
And then, nope, we were playing to the same people. So we were like, oh, crap, like we've only planned one set. And so we kind of rummaged through all our music and we planned.
Oh, well.
And it still worked out to be amazing. And we really just got to know them, which was really, really nice. Like you don't always get to know who you're playing for. Like you just show up to these corporate events, you do your thing, and you just hope they like it. They'll tell you yes or no, and then you go. And that's the end. But we built some really beautiful relationships with like the people we got to meet there.
Yeah, that's great.
I learnt really beautiful stories,
Maybe something will come out of it. Like
yeah, we hope so.
future.
Like we said to them, if you really liked, what we gave, we're always here. And they tell us, come down to the shop if you're looking for a car. Yeah, sure. Like I'll just go buy a car.
Mazda.
Yeah, Mazda. But it was just a really beautiful experience. And like we recently did some graduations, like for grade 5, 6s. And that was really, really cool. Like kids are a vibe. They give you
just not the photograph. I won't photograph kids.
No.
And
thank you. We couldn't share a lot of their content as well because there's all these laws and respecting privacy and all that. And so that was really fun. Like, we're just sort of going into really random things. We even did proposals. Like that just came left wing and that was
Hang
really great.
on, like wedding proposals?
Yeah, so like he was going to propose. Yeah, so we did a couple of those, which was really nice. So it's just really great to just sort of have these windows open for us, or doors, I should say.
Yeah.
Even vendors like wanting us to share their products, when some like, oh, now I've got to use ideas. And so because Chocolate has a little team, like we have, and it's like a family team, like there's Gio, there's myself, we've got Daniel, my brother-in-law, who does a lot of the content. He's our drummer. And then we have Kane, who he's the guitarist, but he's also really close to us. So his dad is Aricia's godfather. And we just sort of work together. They're young, we're a little bit older, so we kind of know what our age group would like. They know what their age group would like, and we sort of bring our ideas together and just keep building and growing. And it's just really, really cool.
It's amazing.
I like it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just like something that I'm really proud about.
Yeah.
And my family and Gio's family, like they promote us, which is really nice and really special. And I think it's just been so nice for our parents to kind of go, I support this, like it's not something that is in the norm.
And it sounds like they're like so proud of you as well.
They are, you know. And when they came to one of our shows that we did for a charity event, and they saw us on that stage, and my mum and dad, they were like, wow, like this is a real thing. It's not, like.
Of course it's a real thing, Mum and Dad. We've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, and I mean, like ever since they came back in my life, they loved music.
I think it's because again, it just comes back to this generational, cultural piece where they just don't understand.
Yeah.
And they don't understand how something can be, creative.
Yeah.
And sustainable.
Yeah. Well, like, for example, when I was in my teenage years, I played soccer and I was quite good at it. And I was asked to play in the female Premier League. And my dad...
Why did you only bring this up after an hour and 38 minutes?
I know. I'm sorry. I didn't realize the time went that fast.
No, because this is very interesting.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. So my parents...
The female Premier League.
Yeah. So they're based in Richmond and I would have been about 14.
Yeah.
And yeah, they had
That's
asked,
fucking cool.
Yeah. But
hang on, no, you did mention about having more awards at your house.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, because my dad, he played soccer growing up and he was very good too. So, and then my brother, like all my brothers play, and it's just.
But because you're the oldest, you're like the trailblazer?
Well, no, actually, it was my brother, the second one. He played soccer. My dad was coaching him, and so then I decided to go into hockey. It was like something different. So I went. My dad took me, and no one would give me the ball, and so I was just standing there, and it was just like annoying. And so my dad's like, "Well, I'm not paying for this." So then he said, "What else would you do?" I'm like, "Oh, soccer," because I liked playing it at school. So he took me, and the coaches really loved me because I'm left-footed, so there's not many foot players, and I wasn't scared. I was, willing to put my power in and all that. So then it just went into a whole new world, and then, they were like, actually, we'd really like her to come and do this. But my parents at the same time were like, well, there's no place for women in soccer back then, right? My dad kicks himself now. My dad, he was like, you know what, there was, and I feel so silly that I had this idea that wasn't there for you when there could have been, could have been, and I'm so sorry. And I'm never mad at my dad about that because I'm like, you didn't know, I didn't know, and it was an opportunity, but that's okay. And I think now my parents, they're kind of like with my 3 younger siblings, they're encouraging what they want. And it's they're kind of just like, well, you can't make your child do something because if they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it took some time for them to go, well, actually, it doesn't matter.
As a parent, you can't live vicariously through your kids if they don't want to do the things that you didn't get a chance to do.
Exactly.
You have to let them work out what they want to do.
Yeah. And so my parents are like, now, if you want to be that, just be 100% at it and be good at it, right? If you want to be the best cleaner in the world, you be the best cleaner. If you want to be the best, person at McDonald's, you do that. So it's kind of like that whole change has been really kind of nice to see because they're seeing that myself, my brother, and my other sister, we are successful in very different things. Like my brother, he's so out there that we never thought he'd be a teacher. But he's killing it. He's a great teacher. The kids love him. And he's just hitting all these goals. And you're just kind of like, wow, from the guy who was like such a partier and drinker, and he's an educator. And then there's me who was meant to be like this teacher who's a singer. And then my sister, she wanted to be a nurse, but now she works in the courts. It's just all these different things.
Crazy.
And my parents are like, we're proud of all our children. And what they're doing.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So what are the plans for next year with chocolate music?
Yeah, so my goal is because of how successful chocolate has been in its first year so far, I'm really wanting to push that, I guess, a bit more and make that a bit more of a full-time thing for me. So I've had to reduce one of my days to compensate from my day job, which has been a huge risk, but it's also been the best because it's like, okay, I'm seeing what's happening. So we'd like to be sort of, I guess, playing more and getting our business sort of out there, more known, having more weddings, being part of more weddings, and even just functions.
Anyone getting married?
Anyone getting married.
To contact?
Yes, contact Chocolate Music. Because we literally, the concept of chocolate music is we fit the vibe that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Right? We all got our own flavors when it comes to chocolate. You know what you like. I know what I like. And sometimes when you blend it together, it can work.
I just love whole chocolate.
Yeah, there you go, right? Like I love caramel.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm a caramel girl because I love white chocolate, but then I like dark chocolate, but I like a bit of caramel. So that just blends it for me.
Yeah. I just like it all. I gotta stop eating it.
Yeah, and see, I never used to be a sweet tooth, but meeting Gio, now we.
Goddamn Gio!
I know. He brings me like a Twix, like he's learnt.
He's my excuse as well.
Yeah.
Since meeting Gio.
Yeah.
No, it's actually it's years before that.
Yeah,
anyway.
But yeah, that's the goal essentially, to get our brand out there. Bring on more artists, and kind of work together at just sort of spreading chocolate out there, and really just making that brand work.
What a fucking name! Just spreading chocolate out there.
Yeah, because everyone loves it, right?
Yeah.
And you can never go wrong with chocolate. So I mean, I always joke. I'm like, I've got different colored men with me all the time that play in my band. So one of them ticks your flavor boxes. I know this.
God damn. Well, Jessie, thank you so much for coming along to the podcast. It's been really great. It's been great to just talk to the other side of Mrs Chokolate.
I know. Thank you for having me. I mean, I'm a rambler, so you're probably like...
No. How can people contact you?
So you can head to our Instagram. We're probably more there. So Chocolate Music.
Yeah.
We're on Facebook. Or you can always, DM us really.
Jessie Maz.
Or there's Jessie Maz. Yeah. So you'll see me linked there. They put my details on there.
Yeah, fantastic.
But yeah, you'll get to see a lot more exciting things from us.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for listening in. Make sure you hit subscribe, that notification bell, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one. See ya.